Imagine the philosopher Seneca watching the Roman elite navigate their treacherous world. He understood that he who is good to all is good to none. Seneca. Chapter 1. The Kindness Tax. Kindness, a dangerous lie. It's a hidden tax, silently enriching others while draining your resources. Prepare to uncover the costly burden you unknowingly bear. The myth they sell you is that kindness is always a virtue, a currency that returns to you tenfold. This is a lie, a dangerous delusion that leaves you exposed, watching his political world crumble around him. Understood intimately, perceived softness is not an asset. It is a hidden tax, silently bleeding your resources while enriching those who know how to collect. Right now, you are likely paying this kindness tax, unknowingly funding the ambitions and comfort of others with your time, your energy, and your potential. This unseen tax is levied every time your good nature is mistaken for weakness. They tell you they need a favor, a little help, a listening ear, and you, wanting to be seen as helpful, as a good person, oblige, you give again. And what you receive in return is often nothing more than another request, another demand on your limited reserves. Nothing leaks faster than an open tap, and nothing drains you quicker than an unchecked generosity. Think about the friend who always forgets their wallet, the colleague who consistently asks you to just look over their reports, or the family member whose emergencies always seem to coincide with your free time. These aren't isolated incidents. These are strategic withdrawals from your personal bank account, disguised as connection or necessity. Every time you explain yourself, every time you justify your refusal, you move from an offensive position to a defensive one, and the moment they know you need their understanding, they have power over you. Watch what happens when you set a quiet boundary. You don't announce it, you just do it. The phone call goes unanswered. The request for a loan is met with a polite but firm, "That's not something I can do." The free advice suddenly comes with a consultation fee. The initial confusion from the tax collector quickly turns into annoyance, then sometimes anger. This is their entitlement being challenged, their easy income stream suddenly diverted. Here's how you reclaim what's yours. First, identify the sources of this tax. Who are the chronic requesters? Who are the ones who take without offering anything of equal value in return? List them. Then, for each one, decide on a single clear boundary. Do not explain, do not justify, simply implement. Wrote of men who will always prove false unless they are compelled to be true. He wasn't advocating for cruelty, but for a clear-eyed understanding of human nature and the necessity of defining your own terms. If you announce your new policy, people will strategize ways to circumvent it. They will argue, they will pull on your heartstrings. But if you quietly change your behavior, there is nothing to debate, nothing to resist, only a new reality they must adapt to. They learn quickly that the tap is no longer open for them. This isn't about being unkind. It's about being strategically opaque, building an invisible wall around your resources. Sun Tzu, the ancient general, understood that true strength lies not in direct confrontation, but in making your position unassailable without ever striking a blow. He advocated for subtle maneuvers that render the opponent's strategy useless before it can even be executed. By silently closing your tap, you're not fighting. You're simply changing the battlefield, removing the resources they once freely plundered. But there's another hidden trap, a more insidious form of this tax, often levied from within your own mind. It's the silent agreement you make with yourself to remain small, to avoid risk, all for the perceived kindness of not outshining others. What is it? Chapter 2. The Hidden Hand. Silent strangulation. The hidden hand operates without a whisper, yet its grip is absolute. You are merely a pawn in a game you didn't even know you were playing, until it's too late. Picture Cardinal Richelieu in early modern France, cold, calculating, laying siege to La Rochelle. He didn't declare war, he simply cut them off. No grand pronouncements, just a wall built into the sea. That wall choked a city, starved a population, making their existence a silent weapon. This is the hidden hand. Silent, unwritten agreements that drain you dry. You are ensnared by the hidden hand. It's not a visible enemy, not an open demand. It's the unspoken expectation, the social contract you never signed. You find yourself giving, helping, sacrificing, all because someone assumed you would. Your kindness is not appreciated, it's expected. It's a resource they silently factor into their own plans. When you become dependable, you become invisible. They don't see your effort, they see their access. Think about the friend who constantly calls for favors, but never offers one in return. The family member who expects your financial support, your emotional labor, without ever stating it as a request. These aren't asks, they are silent appropriations. Or the colleague who always needs a quick hand on their project, or the boss who piles on extra work because you're so good at it. They don't make an official request for your time, they simply wait for you to offer, they wait for you to flinch. Every time you step in, you reinforce this invisible debt. You validate their assumption that your resources are communal. You teach them that your yes is guaranteed, your no an insult. This is how your generosity becomes a leash. Cardinal Richelieu, during the La Rochelle siege, proved open conflict is costly. He simply controlled flow, starving opposition without direct attack. Their own expectations of help, of rescue, turned against them. Here's how you dismantle this hidden hand. You force the invisible into the visible. You make them articulate their demands. When someone implies they need something, do not offer. Wait, make them form the words. If they hint at a favor, ask, what exactly do you need? If they suggest you do something, ask, are you requesting me to do this? This simple act shifts the burden. It brings the unspoken contract into the light. Once they articulate it, you have control. You can negotiate, you can say no, you can set terms. They can no longer claim you always do this, because now they had to ask. Fools announce boundaries with emotional speeches, justifying withdrawal. They explain, defend, seek understanding. They believe empathy is a shield. This is weakness. You don't announce anything. You simply let the unasked go unasked, go unanswered. You don't offer help. You respond to specific verbalized requests. If they don't ask, you don't act. There is nothing to explain. The silence is your weapon. The unspoken expectation can only thrive in the dark. Bring it into the light and it shrivels. Your refusal to fill the void with your own assumptions is power. This concept of making power undeniable, of bringing hidden forces into plain sight, was also central to the reign of Louis XIV. He didn't rely on subtle hints or gentle suggestions to command his court. Louis XIV built Versailles, a massive, opulent stage. His rule was public spectacle. Courtiers were forced to attend, petition, participate in rituals, explicitly demonstrating his absolute authority. No room for unspoken assumptions about loyalty or service existed. Louis XIV understood power, explicit and undeniable, is absolute. He famously declared, T, schis moi, the state, it is I. This was no suggestion, but an undeniable decree. No room existed for hidden hands to operate against him within his court. Just as Cardinal Richelieu used a physical wall to isolate, and Louis XIV used spectacle to command, you must use clarity to define your limits, force them to build the wall of their request themselves. Then you decide if you open the gate. The moment you stop anticipating needs, stop filling silent voids, people are forced to adjust. They will either learn to make explicit requests, or they will fade away, finding someone else to siphon resources from. This isn't about being unkind. It's about being clear. It's about reclaiming your time, your energy, your value from those who believe it's their entitlement. Your generosity becomes a conscious choice, not a silent tax. But what happens when the hidden hand isn't coming from others, but from the very stories you tell yourself? When your own past becomes a silent partner in your present decline? This is the invisible chain you forge. Chapter 3. Your invisible chains. Invisible chains. They bind you. You believe you're free, yet unseen forces dictate your very existence. Understand this and reclaim your will. The invisible chains are the stories you tell yourself, the ones that bind you to a lesser existence, making you believe your own exploitation is a form of duty. Picture John D. Rockefeller in Gilded Age America, meticulously building Standard Oil. His power wasn't just in his capital or his ruthless tactics. It was in the psychological grip he held over his competitors, employees, and even the market itself. He created an environment where resistance felt pointless, where accepting his terms became the path of least internal friction. You are caught in the same snare. You do more, you give more, and you tell yourself it's for loyalty, for future potential, for being a team player. This self-talk is a powerful sedative. It blinds you to the draining reality that your generosity is being weaponized, transformed into an expectation that costs you dearly. Your internal script dictates your external reality, creating a prison of your own making, complete with invisible walls and unspoken rules. Watch what happens when you've been at a company for years, consistently over-delivering, consistently taking on extra responsibilities. You see new hires, less experience, sometimes earning more, yet you stay. You rationalize it. I know the system. They depend on me. It's too much hassle to leave. This is the subtle erosion of your self-worth, disguised as commitment. You are not valued for your work. You are valued for your willingness to accept less. Here's how you dismantle this internal sabotage. You stop narrating your own defeat. John D. Rockefeller understood that people will accept an undesirable situation if they believe there are no viable alternatives. He didn't just crush competitors. He presented a world where his way was the only way, effectively breaking their spirit before they even truly fought. He made subservience seem like common sense. You need to identify the narratives that chain you. Is it the fear of the unknown, the need for external validation, the comfort of predictable misery? Each justification you create to remain in an undervalued position is a link in your invisible chain. You are not protecting your stability, you are preserving your own stagnation. The only person benefiting from this self-imposed restraint is the one paying you less than you're worth. If you announce your discontent without a plan, people will dismiss you as a complainer, validating their low valuation of you. But if you quietly, methodically, and relentlessly build your escape routes, new skills, new contacts, new opportunities, there's nothing for them to dismiss. You don't need their understanding. You need your own freedom. You don't ask for permission to value yourself. You simply do it. Andrew Carnegie, another titan of that era, built his steel empire not just on technological innovation, but on a relentless pursuit of efficiency and a deep understanding of human motivation. He knew that people would work harder and often accept less if they felt they were part of something monumental, if there was a perceived path, however narrow, to upward mobility within his system. What he understood is that a compliant workforce is one that believes its best interests are aligned with yours even when they are not. The invisible chains aren't just invisible. They're often self-forged, meticulously crafted from your own fears and outdated beliefs. But what happens when the source of your depletion is even more fundamental, a core belief system you never questioned when the very foundation of your self-perception has been compromised. Chapter 4. The Loyalty Illusion. Loyalty, a pretty word, isn't it? But behind that facade lies a cunning trap designed to bind you. Understand this illusion and you will see how they truly control you. That fundamental compromise often manifests as the loyalty illusion. They tell you that commitment, dedication, and team spirit are virtues. They demand your allegiance, your extra hours, your emotional investment, all under the banner of a shared mission. This is how they extract more from you for less. This is how they ensure your labor remains cheap, your ambition capped, and your self-worth tied to their approval. The loyalty illusion is a potent weapon, a silent siphon that drains your energy, your time, and your potential. It convinces you to sacrifice your personal gain for a collective that rarely, if ever, sacrifices for you. You are groomed to believe that your individual success is secondary to the group's, that your personal advancement is a betrayal if it means deviating from the prescribed path. This makes you compliant. This makes you compliant. This makes you exploitable. Picture Julius Caesar in ancient Rome, standing on the banks of the Rubicon. He had loyal legions, men who had bled for him, built an empire with him. But Rome, the Senate, the established order, demanded a loyalty from him that would have meant his political destruction, his personal ruin. They expected him to disarm, to return to Rome as a private citizen, effectively surrendering his power and placing his fate in their hands. Julius Caesar understood that loyalty to a system that sought to destroy him was not virtue, but suicide. He crossed that river. He chose his own ambition, his own survival, and his own vision over the hollow demands of a corrupt establishment. His loyalty was not blind, it was strategic, earned, and ultimately self-serving when necessary. He understood that true power never sacrifices itself on the altar of another's agenda. Think about your own environment, whether it's an office, a relationship, or a social circle. Watch what happens when you are subtly pressured to put in extra hours, to take on tasks outside your job description, or to accept less pay because we're all a team here, or we're like family. You are told that by sacrificing now, you are building goodwill, investing in your future, showing your true colors. This illusion is designed to make you feel guilty for prioritizing your own well-being, your own compensation, your own growth. They want you to internalize the idea that questioning their demands is a sign of disloyalty, selfishness, or a lack of commitment. This is how they keep you locked in place, performing above your pay grade, accepting conditions below your worth. They weaponize your own decency against you. Here's how you disarm this illusion. Recalibrate your loyalty. Understand that true loyalty is reciprocal. It is a two-way street of mutual benefit and respect. If your loyalty is constantly being demanded but rarely reciprocated in tangible ways, fair compensation, career advancement, genuine support, then you are not part of a team, you are part of a resource pool. The dark strategy is to treat your loyalty as a commodity, not an innate virtue. Evaluate who benefits most from your sacrifices. If the ledger is always tilted against you, then your loyalty is being exploited, not valued. Your worth is not measured by how much you give, but by how much you demand in return. If you announce your boundaries, if you state your terms, if you quietly refuse to bleed for a system that only takes people will call you selfish, uncommitted, or not a team player. But if you quietly reallocate your energy, if you negotiate for what you are worth, if you walk away when reciprocity is absent, there is nothing they can do but watch you move on. The ancient Roman philosopher Seneca once wrote, "The man who has not learned to say no cannot be free." What he understood is that your freedom, your autonomy, and your self-worth are directly tied to your ability to refuse demands that do not serve your highest good. Your loyalty is a powerful asset. It should be given sparingly and only to those who truly earn it and consistently repay it. This is why the most successful never give their loyalty cheaply. They reserve it for those who demonstrate consistent value, consistent respect, and consistent reciprocity. They understand that a one-sided allegiance is not loyalty. It is subservience. It is a drain. It is a compromise of your own power. The invisible chains are not always forged from external fears. Sometimes they are spun from your own well-intentioned but misplaced sense of obligation. But what happens when the very ground beneath your feet feels unstable? When the rules of engagement are constantly shifting, designed to keep you off balance and unsure of your footing? Chapter 5: The Virtue Trap. The virtue trap, a gilded cage. It is the insidious pressure to be fair, to be reasonable, to be what you are not when survival demands otherwise. The ground beneath your feet can feel unstable, and the rules of engagement are constantly shifting. Picture Winston Churchill in World War II Britain. The world was on fire. Hitler's shadow stretched across Europe. Every reasonable voice urged appeasement, pleaded for peace at any cost. But Churchill saw through the illusion. He understood that peace bought at the price of your core principles is not peace, it is surrender. He refused polite compromise when stakes were existential. This is the heart of the virtue trap. It is the insidious pressure to be fair, to be reasonable, to be seen as the good person. They feed you these ideas. Don't be greedy. Think of the team. We need to compromise. These are not calls for collaboration. They are psychological levers. They are designed to make you self-sabotage. Your desire for external approval, your fear of being labeled difficult, becomes your greatest weakness. It drains your resolve. You accept less than you deserve, not because it is truly fair, but because the alternative violates your image of yourself. This is a subtle self-betrayal. Think about the last time you asked for a raise. You came in armed with facts, then they hit you with the fairness argument. Everyone is taking a pay cut, or we need to be reasonable. Your internal compass shifts. You weigh your demands against their appeal to collective virtue. Watch what happens when you set a firm boundary. They will immediately frame your demand as an attack. I thought we were friends, they'll say, or you're being so unfair. You flinch, you soften. You compromise your own peace to preserve their perception of your virtue. Here's how you dismantle this trap. Detach your worth from their judgment. Your value is not determined by how nice they think you are. It is what you bring to the table and what you demand for it. Their comfort is not your responsibility. Refuse to play the game of moralizing. When they try to shame you, recognize it as a tactic. They are not concerned with fairness. They seek advantage. Your job is not to win their approval. Your job is to secure your position. If you announce your intentions to be fair, people will mark you as a soft target. They will push, they will test your boundaries. You become predictable and exploitable. But if you quietly state your terms, if you demonstrate an unwavering commitment to your interests, there's nothing to argue. There's only the reality of your demand. You become an immovable object. Your power grows in their inability to sway you. This is what Winston Churchill understood when he stood against appeasement. Being reasonable with an unreasonable force was not a virtue. It was self-destruction. He did not seek to be liked by his enemies. He sought to defeat them. Your career is a battleground. Otto von Bismarck declared, "The great questions will not be decided by speeches, but by iron and blood." What he understood is that talk of fairness often masks a deeper struggle for power. Your opponents use rhetoric to avoid the actual contest. He knew real power came from decisive action, not from winning moral arguments. When others appeal to your decency, they manipulate your behavior. They want concessions they would never offer. Your iron and blood is your refusal to compromise your core value. It is your willingness to walk away from deals that do not serve you. This is your non-negotiable territory. The virtue trap compels you to sacrifice your gain for the illusion of harmony. It makes you believe your self-interest is wrong. They will applaud your generosity while they take what you forfeited. Do not mistake their praise for respect. It is a reward for weakness. Your leverage comes from your ability to withstand emotional blackmail, subtle shaming, appeals to your better nature. They expect you to fold. They expect you to care more about their feelings than your own trajectory. Prove them wrong. Winston Churchill did not waver when others called for calm. He recognized that sometimes the most virtuous act is to stand firm, even if unpopular. This is not about being cruel. It is about being clear. It is about becoming clear. It is about protecting your space. When you fall into the virtue trap, you hand over the reins of your life. You allow others to define your worth, dictate your boundaries, control your resources. You become a pawn in their game, seeking approval rather than asserting agency. Embrace the label of difficult or selfish if it secures your position. These labels are projections from those frustrated by your refusal to be manipulated. They wanted you to be easy. You refused. That is power. Your self-interest is not a sin. It is a necessity. It fuels your progress. Do not let others guilt you out of it. Protect it fiercely. Demand what you are worth, not what they deem fair. The difference is monumental. But even when you refuse the virtue trap, invisible currents still pull you. Subtle pressures warp your perception of reality. How do you navigate a world where truths are twisted, where facts are fluid, where your own mind can be turned against you without you realizing it? Chapter 6, The Silent Agreement. Invisible currents, bending your will without a single word. This is the silent agreement, where your unspoken acceptance, your very silence, becomes your undoing. We explore its insidious power. Invisible currents pull you, twisting truths, turning your own mind against you without you even realizing it. This is the realm of the silent agreement, where your unspoken acceptance creates the expectation. Picture Miyamoto Musashi in feudal Japan on the shores of Ganryu Island. His duel with Sasaki Kojiro, his greatest rival, was set. Yet Musashi, a master of strategy, understood that the unspoken rules of engagement were a weapon he could turn against his opponent. He didn't just fight, he engineered the entire encounter. The silent agreement is not a spoken contract, but a pattern of behavior you allow to continue, signaling your consent. You demonstrate through your inaction that you are willing to tolerate the current terms. They don't need to ask for permission to exploit your kindness. Your silence grants it. Your empathy, your desire for harmony, these become the invisible chains that bind you. This unspoken acceptance is why you are underpaid, why your efforts go unrewarded, why your boundaries are consistently breached. Every time you pick up the slack, every time you work late without complaint, every time you absorb someone else's mistake, you are signing this silent contract. You are training others, conditioning them to believe this is your default setting. They don't see generosity, they see compliance. Watch what happens when you consistently cover for a colleague who misses deadlines. Initially, they might offer a half-hearted apology, but over time, your reliability becomes their crutch. The deadline isn't their problem anymore. It's your problem to solve. They have learned that your kindness is a resource, endlessly renewable and free for the taking. This isn't malicious in most cases. It's simply human nature following the path of least resistance. Your silent agreement transforms your inherent worth into a perceived discount. You signal that you are okay with less, that your time and energy are not as valuable as theirs. This bleeds into every aspect of your life, from your salary negotiations to your personal relationships. The longer this goes on, the harder it becomes to break, because now you are not just changing a behavior, you are shattering a deeply ingrained expectation. Here's how you dismantle the silent agreement. Miyamoto Musashi arrived late to his duel with Kojiro, not out of disrespect, but as a calculated psychological tactic. He crafted a wooden sword from an oar on the boat ride over. He didn't announce his intentions. He simply acted. He broke every expectation Kojiro had about the duel, creating uncertainty and fear long before a single blow was struck. This is your playbook. You don't need to explain your new boundaries. You simply enforce them. If you always volunteered for extra shifts, gracefully decline the next one. If you've always paid for group outings, let someone else initiate the payment. If you've been the endless listener, cut the conversation short when it becomes one-sided. Your actions are the only language they truly understand. If you announce, "I'm not doing X anymore because you've taken advantage of me," you invite debate, guilt trips, and emotional manipulation. You move from a position of strength to one of defense, and suddenly, your new boundary becomes a negotiable item. They will argue, they will rationalize, they will try to pull you back into the old agreement with words. But if you quietly, firmly, and consistently change your behavior, there is nothing for them to argue with. There is no conversation to be had. You have simply redefined the terms through your conduct. You have created a new reality, forcing them to adapt to your new standard. This isn't about being confrontational. It's about being decisive. Think about the subtle ways this plays out in your professional life. Your boss expects you to be available after hours, but they never explicitly stated it. You just kept answering emails. That's a silent agreement. When you stop, when your responses become limited to business hours, you are not being difficult. You are simply showing them a new reality, one where your personal time is protected. This isn't about being cruel. It's about teaching. You are teaching others how to treat you, not with words, but with the unwavering consistency of your actions. As Confucius once said, "The superior man is modest in his speech, but exceeds in his actions." What he understood is that true power lies not in what you declare, but in what you consistently perform. Your actions speak louder than any negotiation. Musashi's silent agreement was to disrupt, to unbalance, to control the narrative of the fight before it even truly began. Your silent agreement should be to reclaim your power, to redefine your worth, and to teach others through your unflinching self-respect. You are not waiting for permission to change. You are simply changing. Your kindness is valuable, but it is not infinite. It is a resource to be managed, not a free-for-all public well. When you allow it to be drained without reciprocation, you are not being good, you are being foolish. You are creating a void that others will eagerly fill with their demands. This change will be met with resistance. People who benefited from the old silent agreement will feel entitled to it. They will test your resolve. They will try to pull you back into the old patterns. This is where your consistency becomes your greatest weapon. You must hold the line, not with anger, but with the quiet strength of your new actions. The silent agreement is pervasive. It dictates your pay, your relationships, your personal peace. Break it by changing your actions, not by announcing your intentions. Let your new behavior become the new unspoken rule. It is a subtle shift, but its impact is profound, reshaping your world one decisive action at a time. But what if the silent agreement isn't just about what you allow, but what you believe? What if the greatest silent agreements are the ones you make with yourself, the limiting beliefs that bind you to a smaller reality? How do you shatter the chains of your own mind? Chapter 7. The Self-Claim. Permission, a fool's delusion. You grant yourself nothing, forever awaiting a blessing that will never come. But true power, that is taken. Picture Napoleon Bonaparte in Napoleonic era, standing before the Pope in Notre Dame Cathedral, not bowing his head, not waiting for the crown to be placed upon it. He took the imperial wreath, and he crowned himself. It was a statement, a declaration of power that came from within, not from external validation. This was the ultimate self-claim, the act of seizing what he believed was his without asking for permission. You spend your life waiting for permission to charge more, to demand respect, to walk away from what depletes you. This waiting is a silent agreement with mediocrity, a confession that your worth is determined by someone else's decree. Every moment you hesitate, you are effectively underpaying yourself in time, energy, and potential. The chains are not external, they are forged in your own mind, reinforced by years of seeking approval. You defer your desires, you temper your ambition, you diminish your light to fit into the shadows others cast. This internal concession is the most insidious form of exploitation because you are both the victim and the willing participant. The promotions you never pursued, the boundaries you never set, the true prices you never quoted, each instance was a silent agreement to receive less than your value. They don't underpay you. You allow yourself to be underpaid. The system merely reflects your deepest, unspoken belief about yourself. To break this cycle, you claim your value. You declare your worth not with words, but with actions that leave no room for debate. It is not about demanding. It is about acting as if what you want is already yours. This is the ultimate reclamation. Napoleon Bonaparte understood that power is not granted, it is taken. His coronation was a raw display of this principle. He didn't wait for religious or political authority to legitimize his rule. He created his own legitimacy through an act of supreme confidence. There was no discussion, only execution. Observe what unfolds when you stop asking for permission and start acting from a place of declared ownership. When you raise your rates without an explanation, when you walk away from disrespectful behavior without a warning, when you build your own platform instead of waiting for an invitation to theirs. If you announce your new worth, people will negotiate, they will question, they will seek to pull you back into the old give and take. But if you quietly embody that worth, if your actions are simply the new baseline, there's nothing for them to argue against, there is only a new reality. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is understanding that the space for negotiation only exists if you create it by asking for what should be a given. The moment you offer a justification, you open the door for them to deny you. Close that door. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote about the will to power and the creation of one's own values. He challenged individuals to become their own lawgivers, to sculpt their own truths rather than passively accepting those imposed upon them. What he understood is that true strength comes from self-authorship. Nietzsche's philosophy isn't about cruelty, it's about sovereignty. It's about moving beyond the conventional binaries of good and evil. When they serve to diminish your potential, you define your own measure, not based on external applause, but on an internal standard. This internal standard drives external results. When you no longer seek validation, you stop performing for others. Your actions become pure, focused on what truly serves your vision. The energy you once spent seeking approval is now channeled into building. Remember the silent agreements. The most powerful ones are the ones you make with yourself about what you deserve, what you can achieve, who you are. These are the foundations of your reality. Change these, and everything else shifts. This is the final step in reclaiming your agency. It's about recognizing that your kindness was exploited because you allowed your inner narrative to be dictated by external forces. You gave away the pen that writes your story. Take it back. No more leaks. No more subtle drains on your ambition or your resources. Every boundary you set, every price you declare, every expectation you reset, reinforces this self-claimed reality. It compounds. The game of permission, the silent agreements, the cost of misplaced kindness, they all dissolve. When you decide your worth is non-negotiable, you are not asking for a seat at the table, you are building your own. You are the emperor of your own domain. Just as Napoleon Bonaparte didn't ask the Pope to crown him, you do not ask for validation of your inherent worth. You simply assert it. The choice is yours. Continue to live by the permissions granted by others, or claim your power as a fundamental truth. One path leads to constant negotiation, the other to unassailable authority. Stop negotiating your existence. Stop justifying your value. You do not ask for what is yours. You take it. Your time is now. This is your reality. Claim it.